This is the Cross Keys in Redgrave in Suffolk. The couple who ran this place from the summer of '97, it was a dream come true. Their own idyllic little pub in a picture postcard English village. Marylin Garside bought it with some redundancy money, but not long after she and her husband Jim moved in here, their marriage started to turn sour. The chain of events that followed led to murder. Marylin and Jim had long had a difficult relationship, but at first the pub seemed to bring them together as she'd hoped.
But we moved into equal parts, didn't we?
Yeah.
And, you know, we like it.
I started working here about 4 years ago as a barmaid. They were really nice and they really looked after me. He was a womaniser. He thought he could have any woman he wanted. He tried it on with most women who came into the pub and just made a fool out of himself.
You've been acting like a right tart all night.
If you've got something to say to me, don't say it in front of the customers.
The pub was dead after that. The trade went down and it was a real shame.
When the regulars stopped coming, money got tight and the Garsides took a lodger.
There's just no room for anything.
I had no idea what I was walking into and wish I'd not gone in there now. He started off being nice, thanking me, welcoming me, thanking me for what I was doing around the pub and the flat. And then he started being rude and started coming on to me and started threatening me. He said I was his woman.
You ain't here just to clean glasses, darling.
He told her about us on Christmas Day. He said, Lynn, I want you for love and security, and Trees, I want you for sex.
Marylin was aware of her husband's philandering. Her hopes for the marriage were being crushed.
Lynn stayed here because she was scared of him and she knew deep down what he would do to her if she did leave.
He kept repeating, I could shoot her like a rabbit. Real hate in his voice.
Eventually, Lynn did pluck up the courage to leave, and Jim seemed fairly relaxed about it. The pub was sold and Lynn went back to Essex to live with her son and daughter. A few weeks later, Jim moved in with another woman. Lynn planned a divorce, and she agreed to give him half the proceeds from the pub.
She was much happier since she come back from the pub. She was back to her old self and laughing and joking, and she was so full of life again, knowing that he was out of her life, so to speak.
Once back in Essex, Marylin visited her mum every day.
Sorry I'm late, Mum.
Well, it was so nice to have her back to help me, and I was coping, but I couldn't do the housework.
Don't you want your tea? Oh, leave it till later. Jim just rang, wanting to know where I was.
Oh, yeah.
What do you reckon on that?
Oh, I like that.
Can I help you?
Oh, Lynn! Lynn!
As I drove down the road, it was like something out of a movie scene. There were flashing lights everywhere, people had lined the streets, and I thought, oh my God, what has gone on? And I obviously thought the worst at that stage, but I don't suppose anything could have prepared me for what the worst was.
You all right?
Yes, thank you.
Did you see who did it?
I saw him, but I didn't see his face.
No? Which way did he go?
Well, through the gates.
Yeah, which way did he go once he came through the gates?
I didn't see him then. Actively up.
It's devastating to see it happen to your own daughter and to hear it happening.
Jim turned up later that evening and he put his head in my nan's lap and it was just this wailing noise going on, and I was sitting to the side of him and I was just looking at him and I couldn't see one tear rolling down his face.
When I got to Lisa's, they told me.
What did they tell you?
They told me Lynn was dead. She was stabbed. That was it.
There was no signs of sympathy or empathy towards Marylin at all, or any usual signs of grief.
I knew right from the beginning he was involved in it, from what she told me, but I wasn't allowed to say it because it was hearsay. But I knew what had happened in my heart, I knew.
A week after Marylin's murder, Jim took possession of her car, moved into her house in Romford and changed the locks to stop her son returning home.
Jim just decided to get rid of all my mum's possessions, all her clothing, just apparently put them into black sacks and threw them out.
Very soon it was apparent that Jim was behind the death of his wife. There was no other reason that we could fathom out for anyone wanting Marylin dead other than Jim.
But Jim had a firm alibi.
I was out bowling in King's Lynn. I got a call from Lynn's son. He said, Mum's been attacked. I said, I'll be down straight away to the hospital.
We told Crimewatch exactly what we had, that we suspected that Jim was involved and that we were gathering evidence of his involvement in the case. But I still did not know who the killer was, so the programme was directed to assist me identifying the killer.
In an unusual twist, detectives hoped to set an elaborate trap for Jim. They planned to set up a bogus incident room in Norfolk, invite him to watch the programme there, and convince him the net was closing in. They hoped he'd panic and make contact with a hitman. But Jim was already getting rattled. Before Crimewatch went on air, he took a sudden trip to Alicante. As it happens, even without the trick planned by detectives, the programme turned up trumps.
The Crimewatch appeal was a great success. We had over 30 calls, but there was two real golden nuggets of information that come in. One was from a former wife of Jim's who we've not been able to track down. She was able to tell us in great detail the horrendous domestic violence she'd suffered at the hands of Jim, and this gave us evidence of Jim's previous violent behaviour towards women. But secondly, and more importantly, a solicitor contacted us.
My wife called out to me that the Cross Keys at Redgrave was on the television, and I recalled that I had seen Mrs. Garside. She came to see me and she discussed the fact that she was in an uncomfortable situation. It's unusual for someone to come in and say that they feel that they are being threatened with murder by their spouses, which she did say there were guns on the property and that she was concerned for her safety.
With all this new evidence, when Jim flew back from Spain, the police were waiting for him.
We were able to keep surveillance on him until we were satisfied where he was living, and then we arrested him.
Jim, it's the police.
We didn't charge him at that stage. We questioned him and we released him on bail. And that again was to try and attempt, now that he knew some of the evidence against him, whether he would lead us to the killer.
In fact, it was Jim's phone calls eventually led to his accomplice. The police worked out Jim had 3 phones and had given one to the killer.
We were able to track through the mobile phones a succession of calls from Jim to the killer of Marylin.
Your wife's killer had the phone you'd been using the day before she was killed.
No comment.
We know that the killer had the phone in the area where Marylin was murdered, and they thought that no one would be able to establish who had this phone. However, the killer made one fatal mistake, and the killer rang home, a short call to his home address, and through that I was able to establish Richard Bates was the killer of Marylin Garside.
Richard Bates worked at Fisher's, a frozen food factory, and he had a set of knives for boning meat.
Richard Bates?
Yeah?
DC Galpin, this is DS Pryor. I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something you later rely on in court. Anything you do say will be given as evidence. Come with me, please.
So, who introduced you to Jim Garside?
Teresa. I used to work with Teresa at the factory. First time I met Jim, he came to the car park of Fisher's. I thought, that's nice.
The Mercedes had been stolen, and Jim persuaded Richard Bates to help him drive it to the continent where it was to be sold. It was during that 4-day drive to Greece that the 2 men plotted murder.
You conspired with Richard Bates to have your wife murdered?
No.
Richard Bates is skint. You manipulated him. You offered him money to be involved in the murder of your wife.
And there was more compelling evidence to come. Partial DNA found at the crime scene matched that of Richard Bates. The chain of events was now becoming clear. A week before Lynn's murder, Richard Bates went to her mum's house to plan it. Then on the day, he waited outside for her to arrive.
Hello, Jim.
Yeah?
She's not come. I've been waiting all afternoon. 12 o'clock you said she'd get here.
All right, I'll call you back.
Hello?
All right, where are you?
I'm in Romford shopping for new shoes. How you bearing up? All right?
Yeah, I'm all right, yeah.
Look, I'm late for Mum. I'll see you tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Sit tight. She's on her way.
Can I help you?
It's done.
In June, after a 3-month trial at the Old Bailey, Jim Garside and Richard Bates were found guilty of murder and sentenced to life.